Good afternoon, everybody, once again. Um, this is Sharmila here, and I know that all of you know me by now. And I'm here today for yet another Saturday Live, this time with a person who has done a lot of research has and she herself has a child with special needs, and today she's going to share her journey, and she's going to talk uh, about she's to give going to give us tips on how to homeschool a child with special needs. And I'm very happy to welcome Preeti Dikshit. And before I hand it over to her, I'd like to just share that we haven't yet met personally, but we hit it off the minute we spoke to each other on the phone. So I so resonate with her ways of homeschooling, and especially with children with special needs, and the work that she is doing around helping parents who have children with special needs. I'm simply in deep I have deep respect for Preeti. So well, let's welcome Preeti. Preeti, could you
Thank
start by
you.
sharing a little about yourself and
Yeah.
how maybe we'll take it from there, once you share a
Yeah,
bit of.
sure, sure.
Yeah.
First of all, thank you for those lovely words. I don't know if I deserve them, but yes, we connected the first time we talked on the phone immediately, right?
Yes.
Yeah. I was so happy to find this Homeschooling India group because I have been homeschooling my son for almost 8 years now. And when I started homeschooling my son, it was not such a known concept. People
Hmm.
did not really know about homeschooling. And in fact, people thought I had dropped out of school. They thought
Hmm.
Rohan had dropped out of school, and they would think, oh, homeschooling is just some word to cover up the whole, dropping out of school thing.
Hmm. Hmm.
But let me give a bit of a background about how we reached that stage. My son is now 18 years old, and
Hmm.
he was diagnosed with autism when he was 4.
Hmm.
But even before that, when I did not know that he has autism, I always, loved teaching him things. And so, literally, even when I was pregnant, I had planned how I was going to teach him and what I was going to teach him and how I was
Hmm.
going to go about it. So I was just, waiting for him to be born and then to expose him to all these things in the world.
Hmm.
Probably because of my own childhood, where as a child I enjoyed exploring the world more than I enjoyed sitting in school and sitting in the classroom.
Right.
So when Rohan was born, I think when he was 6 months old, I started, showing him these picture books, and I would take him out in a stroller and I would show him things around, point things out, and
Hmm.
just let him explore the various things in nature and
Hmm.
whatever people passing by, what they were doing, and this continued. So he was born in the U.S. and then we came back to India when he was 2 years old, and I continued this in India. And in fact, in India, we found so much of stuff to explore compared to the
Hmm.
US, where it is kind of very organized. So
Hmm.
the disorganization kind of helped us even more, I think. And he people who know about autism will know that these children tend to have obsessive interests, and these interests either remain the same over a period of time or they change over a period of time. For Rohan, when he was 2 years old, he developed interest in alphabets. This is like literally alphabets, like letters.
Hmm.
He was fascinated with letters. So, every time I used to go to any store, I had to buy him some toys. I would say, okay, let's buy some educational toys. Let's buy a variety of toys. No, he would only end up in the aisle where there were alphabets, books with
Hmm.
alphabets, magnetic alphabets, wooden alphabets, alphabet puzzles, alphabet this, alphabet that. I literally had like a, a crate full of alphabets after a point. But I said, okay, now how do I, make use of this? I mean, he is
Hmm.
just surrounded by alphabets all over, and he would be like, he was 2 years old at that point of time, and he was not speaking. But
Hmm.
he would be
Hmm.
sitting on the floor, and he would be surrounded by all these different kinds of alphabets, and
Hmm.
just playing with them, arranging them, just playing around with them. So I said, okay,
So
why don't I,
I'm going to stop you here and ask you, did
yeah.
you know that he had a special need at that point of time? He was
No,
just
no,
okay.
I did not. I did not. We found out when he was 4 years old, and this was when he was 2 years old. This
Right,
was when he
right.
was 2 years old. And the
Wow.
thing is, being my first child, I did
Hmm.
not have anything to compare it to. So, I was
Hmm.
excited about everything that he used to
Yes.
do. So I was like, I found it very, adorable that he was so interested in alphabets. I got him all these alphabets. And I said, okay, so let me just, start reading books, And so from picture books, I switched to first readers, early readers, and we
Hmm.
started spelling words. Forming words with those magnetic letters and stuff. And I would show him pictures and I would ask him to name that thing, but he was non-verbal. So he would
Hmm.
arrange the letters in order, to spell
Hmm.
the word out.
Okay.
And when he
Wow.
started, so when he started preschool, again, still not speaking, so very quiet, sitting in one corner of the classroom,
Hmm.
and very very interested in learning, always very interested in learning. So the teacher once was teaching about different colors, and she was asking children to recognize the colors. So the teacher, uh, nobody was answering. This is what, the teacher called me to school and narrated this incident because she was
Hmm.
so blown
Hmm.
away. So
Hmm.
it seems, she was showing different colors and asking children to name the colors. Rohan couldn't speak, so what he did, he went to the board, he picked up a chalk, and he
Hmm.
started writing the names of the colors,
Wow.
And the teacher
Wow.
is like, whoa, what's going on here? And then she called me,
Right.
like, ma'am, you have to come, your son is a genius. I said, what happened? What happened?
Hmm.
I was like,
Right.
So he was always very much interested in learning, and at that point of time, I did not know that he had autism, and that he, had some condition because of which he had probably different learning patterns than other children.
Hmm.
So then it came time to start kindergarten. So preschool, went this way. He was still
Hmm.
not speaking.
Hmm.
Um, then around 4, because he was not speaking, that was one of the issues. But he had started speaking on a need based basis. So he would, communicate his needs in one word, hungry, thirsty, or
Hmm.
tired or sleepy, things like that. But otherwise,
Hmm.
most of the communication was through gestures, or he would tug my hand, or he would pull me to in a direction to kind of let me know what he wanted. And
Hmm.
also, because he was not speaking, I became very much used to all the cues, that he would show. But it was very difficult for others to understand, obviously,
Hmm.
because they did not know his body language, or his expressions. So when he
Right.
started kindergarten, it was really really difficult, I think, for both the teacher and for him to
Hmm.
manage, because the environment was different. It was more structured than a preschool.
Right. Right.
Children were sitting in a classroom with these desks, and he
Hmm.
refused to sit in one place. He refused to sit. So the teacher, after a month, called me and said, please come and visit us, because we think, there is some issue. Rohan absolutely refuses to sit in one place, and he's extremely distressed. He's, if he hears the sound of the bell ringing, he starts screaming and shouting. If the children, if other children crowd around him, he starts hitting them, and he basically is completely distressed and stressed out. So please come and meet us. Then we went and met them, and they said, we would like you to visit a child psychologist. And
Hmm.
at that was the first time that this thought of something being wrong, something being wrong with him, uh, came to us. And let me tell you, I was extremely angry with the teacher. I was like, this teacher is not able to handle my son, and so she's calling my son, uh,
Right.
as
Right.
having some problem. But then my
Hmm.
husband was like, no, calm down, let's see. Because they said, unless you don't go and meet a child psychologist and come back with a report, we will not take him back.
Hmm.
So we
Hmm.
did not have a choice. So we went to a child psychologist, and she diagnosed him with autism. Then we went to a psychiatrist who confirmed the diagnosis.
Hmm.
So
Hmm.
that is where the autism journey started. Still, as far as schooling goes, he was doing pretty okay, except for the issues related to autism. He had a lot of sensory issues. So he could not stand loud sounds, So the children talking, the school bell ringing, all that used to cause him a lot of distress. But he was good at academics, he was always good at academics. Um, so he was doing good in school in academics.
Hmm.
However, as the classes progressed, as the children grew older, the other kids became more socially savvy. They became more emotionally mature. But
Hmm.
my son was, still like a toddler, probably, still like a toddler in his understanding of social and emotional intelligence. So
Hmm.
he started finding it really hard to cope on these other aspects. As far as academics was concerned, not a problem. He was coming first in class. So as a mother, I should have been very happy. My child is coming first in class. What else do I
Hmm.
want? But
Hmm.
this child, after coming home, used to have such a severe meltdown because he was so stressed out in school, and he was controlling himself and somehow sitting in place, and all that would just explode after he came home. And it after a point, it reached a stage where it started affecting his physical health. So he started getting migraine attacks after every day after school. He used to come home with a migraine. He used to start vomiting, and then the next day again, somehow I get him ready, send him to school, and the same thing repeats all over again. Because of this, I could not send him to school full time anymore. So I took permission from the school. I told the school, can he please attend school only part time? Because he is having all these issues, and the doctors have told us it's not good. He's also losing weight, I said, because of vomiting so much. So the school was okay. They said, okay, fine, we can do that, not a problem. And that is how we continued fourth grade. So fourth grade continued half day school, and then the rest of the things I told them, don't worry about the academic part of it. I will do whatever homework is there, whatever classwork, I will complete it at home.
Complete.
So I will
Hmm.
make sure, I will take responsibility for that. I will make sure that he is on par with the other children in class, and he can come and give exams.
Hmm.
um, so in fourth grade this worked, kind of. But when he was going to move from fourth grade to fifth grade, the school called us and said that they cannot accommodate him anymore, because they said, this was an ICSE school, and they
Hmm.
said that from fifth grade onwards, the ICSE board requires, like 90% attendance, and
Okay.
we
Right.
cannot,
Hmm.
allow him
Hmm.
to just come to school for half day. That will not be acceptable to the board. They will not allow him to sit for the exam.
Hmm.
So I
Hmm.
was like, oh my God, what do I do? I had never thought about, such a eventuality. They said, why don't you try to put him in a special school? I said,
Hmm.
okay, I think there is no other option at this point of time, because I also knew how much he was struggling in school. So It
Right.
seemed, it made sense, so we approached special schools, but special schools said ki, why do you want to put this child in a special school, he is so intelligent.
Hmm.
So the problem was Rohan fit neither here nor there,
Not there.
you know
Right.
because most special schools take in children who have intellectual disability,
Right.
so they are not really catering to children with autism or children with
Hmm.
maybe physical health issues or some borderline problems.
Hmm.
And inclusive schools, the so called inclusive schools, mostly take in children with learning disabilities, at the most ADHD. They are
Right.
very, very reluctant to take in children with autism because they have a lot of other issues, a lot of behavioral issues, a lot of
Hmm.
sensory issues, many other issues. It is difficult for them to manage. They need a proper support system there to do that. So
Hmm.
now the kids with autism are left nowhere, really, you know.
Hmm.
Um, what happens with many kids is that somehow they pull on till third grade, fourth grade, and then most of them at fifth grade are just left to fend for themselves. So many end up either homeschooling, or if nowadays there are a few schools that have come up, which are not exactly special schools but which are kind of like open schools who follow the NIOS curriculum, and
Hmm.
they help these kids with their academics. But they are
Right.
very, very few. I mean, compared to the number of children that are out there, these are like a handful. They won't even cover 0.0000001% of the autistic population.
Right. Right. Yes.
So I was like, really frustrated.
Hmm.
I said, this is so unfair. My son, he loves learning,
Hmm.
not academics. He loves learning, anything you give him to read, anything you expose him to, he would absorb things like a sponge, and
Hmm.
schools, not just the regular school but even the special school, refuses to admit him to school. And I was extremely frustrated. I
Hmm.
didn't know what to do. I had not heard of homeschooling until that point of time. I had no idea what my other options were.
Hmm.
Luckily, so what I did, and this is very interesting, Sharmila. You'll find this very interesting because I was in Bangalore at that point of time, and I was help. I felt so helpless, and I really felt so lost. I wasn't sure what to do. I told my husband, my parents are in Pune, so I told my husband, I'm just taking Rohan and going to Pune for a while. I'm just going to chill out there, forget about all these things, and just
Hmm.
take a break from everything. I
Right.
said, this is enough, as it is. The poor boy is suffering so
Boy.
much, physically.
Yes.
And on top of it, all this, I just needed a break. So I went to Pune, and in Pune, I met somebody who said, yeah, Anita, I think. I met somebody who told me about homeschooling.
Hmm.
And I was
Hmm.
like, oh, yeah, homeschooling? What is this? I have never heard about this. And then they told me, there are a few parents in Pune who homeschool their children. So, why don't you try to find out about that?
Hmm.
So I was like, okay, this, sounds interesting. I never knew there was something like this. And that is how our homeschooling journey started, you
Wow.
know.
Ah,
So that
yes.
was, yeah, that it was like, and I feel like it was divine intervention.
Hmm.
Literally, although I don't really believe in God as such, but I still, feel that it was like divine intervention, because after we started off homeschooling, every issue that Rohan was having until then, all the struggles that he was facing trying to, fit into the mainstream school structure, they just
Hmm.
went away. And just like before school started, we used to roam around, we used to enjoy, we used to learn naturally, spontaneously. We went
Hmm.
back to that, and we
Right.
had so much fun. We again started having so much fun instead of all this pressure of
Hmm.
having to
Hmm.
complete this syllabus and then having to give this exam. Why complete the syllabus only to give the exam?
Exam. Yes.
Literally, I mean, not to learn. In
Hmm.
school, the approach was never teaching syllabus to learn something. It was always teaching syllabus to pass a exam.
Right. Yeah.
So when I thought about it, I was like, really, I mean, I think this is a blessing in disguise. Let me make the most of this. आगे क्या होता है देखा जाएगा.
देखा जाएगा. Yes.
Yeah, but let's start this. So we started homeschooling. In the beginning, I did not even look at a textbook or anything. I told Rohan, let's just enjoy. So
Hmm.
I used to take him to the zoo. I had to teach him about animals. I'll take him to the zoo. I want to teach him about plants. I'll take him to the garden. I want to teach him about fire station. Take him to a fire station. Take him to a
Hmm.
police station. I've even shown him the jail cell.
Wow. That's so beautiful. At this junction, what I would like to share is that when
Yeah,
I started my journey as a teacher in a progressive minded school, it was
yeah,
actually an open school, and the founders had accepted a child with autism who was almost
okay,
13 years old, and
okay,
she had put together a team of three of us who would spend time with the child
yeah,
um, and try and work with the child in his learning and so on.
yeah,
I think that was the toughest task
yeah,
that was given
yeah,
to me,
yeah,
because it was and this probably, it also depends on the kind of experiences a child has had in his childhood that
yeah,
determines how they are with the external world.
yeah,
So this child, what I understood later on, was beaten up by his parents for not listening because they did not
okay,
know that he had autism. And when they got to
okay,
know he
yeah,
had autism, out of frustration, they would
hmm.
use, their hands just to get him to sit
Yeah,
still or not get aggressive. And by the time he
yeah,
was 13, he had started becoming aggressive, and he had
yes,
started,
yes,
throwing things, hitting, lashing out to the teacher. So
yeah,
most often we used to teach him separately. Though he was part of the school, he was not part of the entire class.
yeah,
And
yeah,
and after a point of time, I had to tell the teachers, I had to tell the school that
yeah,
I am not equipped. I cannot
yeah,
handle a child. I have not been trained in it, and
yeah,
that's when we realized that teachers in India are not being trained to handle
yes,
children with special needs. It's
yes,
not part of
yes,
their course, and
yeah,
it becomes part of their course only when you aspire to specialize in something like
yeah,
this, or you aspire to go into a special needs, teach in a special needs school.
yeah,
And none of
yeah,
our schools are integrated, none of our schools are
no, no,
inclusive,
no,
and then what we realize that sometimes, we teachers do a bigger harm because we are not trained
yeah, yeah,
than anything. Though that child
yeah,
was with us for a year and we did a lot of things with him,
yeah,
finally we had to tell his parents, and we
yes,
brought in a lot of changes also. We stopped the
yeah,
bell from ringing. We said we
wow,
are
that
not
is,
going to have bell ringing. We brought in so many changes within the school.
yeah,
We created his learning space with things that he liked and he felt
yes,
good with.
yes,
So the colors, there were certain colors that would agitate him. So we ensured that those colors were not around. Certain
yeah,
noises, even the fan making a slight noise at time
yeah,
bothered
yeah,
him. And we
yeah,
ensured that, that fan was taken out, a new fan was put in so that
yeah,
he wouldn't. So we did a lot in those terms in creating the environment. However, it was such a mess with the way the parents were, and then we realized we need to
yeah,
work with the parents too. We realized we need to work with
yes,
ourselves, we need to train
yes, yes,
ourselves. So finally, I think the school took a call that until they are equipped, they will not
yeah,
handle, they will not bring in students with special needs. But later,
yeah,
I hear now that the same school does
Has.
ensure that their teachers go through certain courses to handle
Yes.
children with special needs, and that I feel is an amazing development of
Yeah,
this.
you have, sorry, did I interrupt you? Please
No,
go
no,
ahead.
no. You can. In fact, you need to share. This is what I
You
wanted to
have no,
share.
you have brought up a very important point, Sharmila, because what is happening is there are a lot of children with special needs. There are a lot of children with autism. In a way,
Mm,
children with other special needs like cerebral palsy or Down syndrome do get integrated into school because they do not have
right,
that many behavioral issues.
right.
But with children with autism, like you said, your experience with one child, just
Mm,
imagine every child with autism has different issues.
mm,
So, one child with autism may be agitated by the color red, and the other
mm,
child may be agitated by the color blue. So, how do
yeah,
you accommodate all these kids, right? That is
right.
the challenge. That is the challenge because every child with autism has unique issues. So,
Mm,
no, so we always say, no two children with autism are the same. No, sir, no, no, they don't. The way you teach a child with autism is not going to be the same for every child with autism.
yeah.
So it is difficult. It is difficult. I mean, we just do not have the resources to do that. Schools do not have the resources to do that.
Mm,
And
mm,
as you said, there are many parents who, even after knowing that the child has autism, is not ready to accept, that the child has autism, and they think that, if only the child somehow goes to school and is able to graduate and get a job, somehow things will work out. So they push the child so much, without understanding really what the child needs and what the child is capable of.
mm,
It's like a desperate attempt to try to get things back to normal.
mm,
But that doesn't happen, and this is a realization which takes time.
mm,
uh, it takes willingness of the parent to accept that our child is different. So
mm.
that is one whole different yeah,
Oh, I
I can go
understand.
on about that.
Yeah, yeah. So there is a question that's come up from one of our Facebook user viewer. I'm just
Yeah,
going to put it up. Give us some suggestions for parents having two children. One of them is a special kid, and parent desire to do homeschooling. Wow. I think what we could do is, before we get into answering this question, maybe
yeah,
we could move on to how did you create your homeschooling journey, so that the parents
yeah,
also come to know, what was it that you did differently, and what
yeah,
was it
yeah,
that you did for Rohan to have a happy learning journey, and the
yeah,
whole
yeah.
family to have an enjoyable experience.
Yes,
So
yes,
maybe you could share a bit on that. Maybe the
sure.
question would get answered there, or
Yeah,
else we'll
yeah,
take it specially out. Yeah.
yeah. So once we started homeschooling, one of the things that I realized with Rohan was that he needed concepts to be tangible. That was the biggest change I would say that I inculcated while teaching him, is to make every concept tangible. So he found maths very difficult, for example. Why? Because it was such an abstract concept for him. What is number
Mm,
one, two, three, four? What do these numbers mean? What do they represent really? He did not have number sense. He could
mm,
count, but he did not have number sense. And I realized this only after taking him out of school. Until
yes.
then, I don't know how he managed without having number sense. But he could do addition, subtraction, everything, but did not really understand what these numbers meant. So at that point of time, his interest had moved from alphabets to cars. So then
Mm,
what I did was I used cars. We had a lot of Hot Wheels, we had a collection of Hot Wheels. So we started counting the Hot Wheels. I taught him addition, subtraction, everything, through grouping those cars together. Okay.
mm,
And we used to
mm,
like make teams of cars. We like, okay, here is this team of cars, here is this team of cars. Then the teams would race, and then somebody would come first, and then somebody would come second, and then some cars would get eliminated. That's how I taught him maths. So
Hmm. Wow.
yeah, so
Yeah. So
some
you
very
so you took something that he was interested in, and
yes, yes,
then you, through games and through a lot
yeah,
of conversations, you brought in the idea of
yeah.
maths and brought in the concept of math.
What
That's
happens,
amazing.
what happens with many parents is that they try to decrease the obsessions that the child has, or decrease the fixated interests that the child has.
Hmm. Hmm.
I thought, why, it's okay if this is his interest, let me make use of it to teach him different concepts. So,
Correct.
I taught him self-help skills by giving the cars baths. The cars would go for a bath. The cars had a whole routine, from morning to
Hmm.
evening. They would sleep with him. They would wake up with him. They would brush their teeth.
Amazing.
That is
He
the
must have
grill,
also.
Yeah, that is the
Mm-hmm.
grill in the front.
Yeah.
After a point, he started, because at this point of time he was just learning to speak, he was just learning to speak. So because of this, using cars to teach him all these various concepts, including self-help skills, including emotions, including his needs, how to communicate his needs, he started communicating in car language, where he would say, if he was tired, he would say, I'm running out of fuel.
But that's
If he had to,
impressive.
yeah, if he had to go to the potty, he would say, my exhaust is about to burst.
Hmm. But that actually displays complex thinking, because to
Yes.
associate
And
something with
I
something else.
was I was so
Wow.
amazed. I'm like, okay, so he has got the concept right, he's got the concept
Hmm.
right. If his legs were tired, he would say, my wheels, my tires are flat, they are punctured. So he came up with his own analogies
Oh, that,
to, yeah,
right.
yeah.
Wow.
So this is,
Wow.
one example how I taught him various concepts, how I taught him maths. I took advantage of the interest that he had. The other thing that I did, which I think also helped a lot, is using, different moments throughout the day to teach him concepts. For example, we were learning about states of water. Yeah. um, I didn't want to teach him, I had a book at that point of time to teach him states of water. And the book had all these, diagrams. It had these diagrams. It showed water in, a glass, or, the ocean or river. Then it
Hmm.
showed water as ice cubes, and it showed water as steam, all through
Hmm.
diagrams. I
Hmm.
said, why am I, using a book and diagrams to teach him states of water? No, let me go to the kitchen,
Hmm.
get water, put it in the freezer. What happens after you put it in the freezer? Take it out, again put it at room temperature. What happens when you put it at room temperature? Boil it. What happens when you boil the water? Done. States of
Wow.
water lesson completed. you know and this
Hmm.
was this was very, very easy for him to grasp, because he was actually experiencing it. It was tangible. It was not something abstract in a book somewhere. Looking at diagrams, how do you relate that to real life?
Hmm.
This was something he found difficult. So this way of teaching made it very easy for him to grasp these concepts you
Hmm.
know
Yes, yes. In
so I
fact, I
say,
always tell
because of,
parents that, when you choose to homeschool, you have
yeah,
the opportunity to make help children actually experience everything. So even if you have a
yes,
textbook as a
yes,
guide, you
yeah.
can actually just look around in your house and you can do so many things with the
Absolutely,
children.
absolutely. Floating, sinking,
Yes.
buoyancy, everything you
Everything.
can, actually. So, basically what we do as practicals in school, right? We do
Hmm.
like maybe an hour of practical sometime in a year. I don't know. I don't remember now. But so this is like completely practical way of learning.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Yes, that's true. That's true.
It's like,
Wow.
you learn as you live. You learn as you live. Because it
Hmm.
really is, as a child, if you remember, I remember my childhood, every
Hmm.
child inherently is built to learn. It's
Right.
not something that has to be forced on a child.
Hmm.
It's the way we are made. It's the
Hmm.
way we are
Hmm.
made as human beings. We are
Hmm.
extremely curious by nature. We are able to learn on our own. All we need are opportunities. That's why I keep telling parents, give your child opportunities. It's not about making him sit in one place. Parents will come and tell me, my child does not have sitting tolerance, my child does not have sitting tolerance. I said,
Hmm.
okay, fine. If your child does not, he was not meant to have sitting tolerance, he was meant to go out in the world and explore. So
Hmm.
please get up. Instead of making the
Right.
child sit, you get up, you go out, you explore, take him here,
Hmm.
take him there, do grocery shopping. Everything is a teachable moment.
Hmm. Hmm.
It should be
Wow.
integrated.
Yeah.
It should be integrated in
Yes.
life. It's not something separate. As long as you think of it as something separate, then it
Hmm.
feels like a big deal.
Hmm. True. True. Yes.
Please tell me
I
when to stop speaking, Sharmila, because I can go.
No, what you share is so interesting. There are many a times I don't feel like I don't want to stop you. I just want you to continue because I am also getting into that entire flow, and it's such a
Yeah, yeah.
joyful
It is
chat that
so
we are having.
wonderful. It is so
Yes, yes,
wonderful, to see your child learn things, the way they are
yes.
meant to, I feel, the way they are
Right.
meant to learn all these by exploring, you know.
Hmm. Hmm. And knowing that your child has a condition called autism,
Yeah,
and knowing that it can only be managed probably to a certain extent. I
yeah,
have heard that children with autism, when they enter adulthood, there are
yeah.
changes, and if and usually if they've had a very happy childhood, those changes are evident, and
Yeah,
they live a near to normal life too, as
yeah.
long as they keep in they manage their anger, they manage
Yes.
their frustrations, irritations, they lead a near to normal life. So
Yeah,
could you, now that Rohan is 18,
yeah,
and somewhere, what are your plans for him, or how has he started thinking about his future,
yeah.
and how does it go, to be becoming an independent being, managing
Yes, yes,
himself, his needs,
yeah,
maybe economically independent too. So how is
yeah,
that happening uh, with
yeah.
your and Rohan's lives?
And Rohan. So the first thing I realized towards making Rohan independent, when I learned that Rohan had autism, my goal was to make him independent. When I actually thought about it, what would I need to do to make Rohan independent? When we started our journey, Rohan was not potty trained. Rohan was not eating on his own. He would not be he could not take a bath on his own. He was not verbal. He was not speaking. He had severe sensory issues. He had motor coordination issues. He So there were a lot of challenges, a lot of challenges and a lot of things which a child would have normally learned over a course of time as part of growing up.
Hmm.
I had to actually take a lot of effort to teach Rohan all these things. One of them was emotional regulations, self regulation. All these were part of having to. So until then, like many parents, I had thought that all I needed to make Rohan independent was academics. So
Hmm.
until then, I had focused completely on schooling. I said कि ये तो कैसे हो जाए तो फिर बाकी सब ठीक हो जाएगा. But
Hmm.
then I realized that, on the one hand, he is, doing well in academics, but he's not able to eat on his own. So I used to go to school, even in fourth grade, I used to go to school to feed him, lunch,
Hmm.
because he could not
Hmm.
eat on his own.
Hmm.
And so I kind of backtracked and I decided that I would focus on the basics first. So I would
Hmm.
focus, it was a more of a holistic approach. And that helped a lot because he did not, in fact, academics was the least of my concerns, at that point of time, because he was doing okay in that, but he was struggling a lot in the other areas. And
Hmm.
slowly, this affected him mentally, because as he grew older, he started realizing that he was different from the other kids. He started realizing that there were
Right.
many things he could not do in comparison to other kids his age, you know
Hmm.
and that started really affecting him, so he also was very motivated to learn these other things. so
Hmm.
we so initial focus was completely on self help skills, emotional regulation, self regulation, taking care of his sensory issues, motor coordination issues. So we had a lot of therapies. There were a lot of therapies that we had to do for years.
Hmm.
Also communicating with him a lot, because just because he started speaking did not mean that he could communicate. So this process took a very long time, because this is inherently something that children with autism find difficult. So even if a child is verbal, that is
Hmm.
has speech, can speak, does not necessarily mean that he can communicate, his needs or his emotions or whatever. So it's
Hmm.
only now that Rohan kind of engages in conversations with us.
Hmm.
Until about 2 years back, it was more or less monologues about his interests. So
Hmm. Hmm.
for many years, it was, we would have to like listen to dinosaur talks about dinosaurs and snakes and skyscrapers and earthquakes. And so every time, whatever interest he had, he would talk about that. So for many years it was like that, where he would engage in monologues. But it wasn't a conversation. So if I asked him a question, he would find it very difficult to answer,
Hmm.
or
Right.
he never asked me any questions. It's
Hmm.
only in the past 2 years that we are actually having conversations, and now it's like like a friend. He can talk to me, I can talk to him, and I ask him for his opinion. So I've always encouraged this kind of
Hmm.
independent thinking in him,
Hmm.
where
Hmm.
I haven't put too much focus on him following directions. I have always put more focus on giving him choices, on making him
Hmm.
make a choice, because that is very important, I feel.
Hmm.
Otherwise, all of your childhood, your parent is telling you, do this, do this, do this, do this, do this. And then into adulthood, you have to make your own decisions, you have to make your own choices. If you have
Right.
never done that as a child, how are you going to suddenly do that as an adult? So
Hmm.
always, giving him choices, acceptable choices, of course.
Yes, yes, I understand.
But choices, so
Hmm.
that the decision making capacity is developed.
Hmm. Hmm.
Also, every time I would say, no for something, for example, I would give
Hmm.
him the reason behind that, not just say, no, you can't do that. No,
Right,
Rohan,
right.
I don't think you should do this, because, if you do this, this is what will happen. So, consequences, teaching him consequences about actions.
Right.
Um, all this has made him now, I feel so proud of the way he has grown up. I
Yes.
was telling you the other day that the doctors are now saying that he does not have autism. So I'm like, okay, but it is supposed to be a lifelong condition. So what do you mean? Like, no, he does not
Hmm.
display any autistic traits.
Hmm.
And then I was
Hmm.
very confused. But then other parents, were like, man, you should be happy. All your hard work has paid off. I said, okay, I guess I could think about it that way. But
Yes.
yes, he does still have certain struggles.
Hmm.
Um, and but now, since his interest in cars has remained always. So at one point of
Hmm.
time he wanted to be a car salesman. he
Hmm.
he said that he does not really enjoy nature that much. We used to try to take him to parks and stuff. He would say, why do bring me to nature? Then my husband and I used to say, it's because you feel so calm, you feel so peaceful. He would
Yes.
look at us like we were crazy and say, that's you. I feel calm and peaceful in a car showroom.
Car
Please take
showroom.
me to a car showroom.
Right.
So,
Yes.
so a lot of
Yes.
things changed in my mind.
Right.
The things that I assumed to be absolute truths were no
Hmm.
longer absolute truths.
Hmm.
His
Yes.
truths were different and I had to respect them. So I was like,
Mm,
fine, let's go to a car showroom if you want to feel relaxed and rejuvenated.
mm,
So he
yes.
wanted to be a car salesman.
You
Now
have
he
made
wants
such
to.
a huge point over here that
Yeah.
so often we expect our children. Now this could be
Yeah.
any child, not only a child with
Yeah.
autism, any
Yeah.
child. We always expect them to like and want things that we want.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
yes, yes, when we had started our unschooling journey, in fact,
Yeah.
we had consciously decided that we're going to throw academics out of our lives and
Yeah.
concentrate on learning through everyday experiences, because my
Yes.
boys did
Yes.
go to a school. My
Yes.
daughter's has never been, but my boys did go to a school. And in the initial stages, because someone had told me that you have to start with giving them choices and respecting their choices and having conversations around whether to accept why you
Yes.
don't
Yes.
like that particular choice. So it had
Yes.
become a trend now for a
Yeah.
while that I would give them a choice, and then I would say, no, but I think you should do this, and then they would immediately catch. They would say, yeah, then you tell us no directly what you want us to do. Why are you going around the bush and saying, do you want to do this or do
These
you
are.
want to do that? And it went on for a while, and my relationship with my boys was not improving. And that some one day, a friend who had come to visit, who was also unschooling, she pointed it out to me, saying, Sharmila, do you know what you're doing? Can you see? Let's replay this thing that's happened at home. And it was such a huge revelation.
Yeah.
And I
Yeah.
was like,
Yeah.
oh my God, am I really doing this? I
Yeah.
never thought. I thought, and I used to look at myself as the most progressive minded mom who's who's
Yeah.
total freedom
Yeah.
to her children. So
Yeah.
yes, it is tough. It takes time to change, but I guess
It does.
once
It does.
you start reflecting on your actions and you keep your
Yeah.
ego away, things start looking so
Absolutely.
different. They start looking so
Yes.
different.
They do. They
So
do. They do.
yeah,
You know,
yeah.
we underestimate children. We think that अरे छोटा है तो इसे क्या पता.
Hmm.
That has to change because then you're kind of stifling their potential somehow by thinking that.
Hmm. True, true. Very, very true. And so now, we make it a point, I make it a point to stop myself when all those kind of words come out. I've been fairly successful in the past 2.5 years, because now my
Okay.
boys, it's a different relationship that we have
Yes,
now
yes,
than what
yes,
it was when they went to school. When they went to
yes.
school, it was more of nag. I had become a nag,
Yeah,
do
yeah,
this, do
yeah.
that, keep this in place, do your
Yes, yes.
homework, complete this, get up on time.
It's
It
like
was
we are training them to be drones, in school. It's like
yeah,
we
yes,
expect them to be drones, literally. You like
yeah.
robots will follow orders, bus.
Yes, yes.
Don't think independently, don't be creative, nothing. Just do what you're told.
Mm. Okay, I'm going to start taking questions because there are lots of questions and lots of feedback that is being posted on the
Yeah,
group. Uh,
yeah.
so we'll start by, and some of them are comments. So, so there is this user who's asking, do all autistic kids have this number sense issue? Is it something common to all children with autism?
No, no. Some kids are very good at maths, so it's very, very different from child to child. Every child's issue is different. Just like every child's issue is different, every autistic child's issue is different. So don't forget that they are individuals at the end of the day.
Mm,
Yeah.
mm, yeah. Wow, this is a nice comment that's coming. Uh, oh my, the car terminology needs a little bit. Great ideas to connect, come to his level, take interest in what he is interested in. So, exhaust. Nothing could be more innovative. So, he's loved this comment. This is our Bhagwanji. His name
Yes,
features on
yes,
our this. And
yes.
in fact, Bhagwanji makes it a point to view every live or every video that is posted. He takes time to read every question and comments that are put up by other members.
Yeah.
So we are very thankful to have Bhagwanji on our group, and his math sessions are also amazing. I
Okay.
have watched a
Okay.
few of the videos, so they're really amazing. Okay, so then there's another comment which says, "Necessity makes man learn." I think this came at a point when you were sharing about how you transformed from a schooling mom to
Yeah.
a
Yeah.
homeschooling
Yeah.
mom, and how you brought in changes.
A
Yes.
lot of paradigm shifts. Yes.
Hmm. Yeah, then there are more comments like this, that even my son loves to learn practically. He doesn't like books, and so I'm not going to share all everything. I request all our viewers, if they have any specific questions, please put them up, and we still have about 10 minutes to finish this live, so we can take them. There is a question that's just come up. Can 28-year-old boys be trained at this age to be independent, or should we have to start from early childhood? Uh,
It's difficult for me to answer this question, because it would depend so much on the child and the history of the child. But ideally, it should have started in early childhood. Ideally, the process should have started in early childhood, because that is when the brain is also very flexible. It's still growing, it's still learning. But I'm
hmm,
not saying that it would be impossible. I would never say that something would be impossible. But
right.
probably the child's doctor would be the person's doctor would be a better person to ask
Hmm,
this question to.
right. Right. Yeah. Okay. Okay. Oh, there's a nice comment. I love the sense of humor in this
Hi,
session.
Lily.
This comes from Lily. Lily is also part of our
Yeah,
admin
yeah,
team. I
yes.
look at her as my mentor too. She's helped
Oh,
me learn and become more accepting of many other
yeah,
people.
yeah,
So she plays a very important role in my
yeah.
development, my growth. Thank you, Lily, for being on this
Thank
show.
you, Lily.
And yeah, okay. There's a question. How did you help in building opinions?
I did not understand that. Opinions of.
I think it is about around making choices and deciding a particular choice, or maybe it is around
How did I.
opinions about various things.
I let my son have his own opinions. I do not force my opinions on my son, because opinions are very personal, and every person is entitled to his or her opinion. So I have always, what I have done with my son is, I have provided him all the information always. I tell him both sides of the, story. I give him pros and cons of any situation. Then I ask him to make a decision based on what he thinks. And for example, with this COVID situation, we had this huge talk about whether a lockdown is the right way to go. So he had his own opinion about, whether that's the right way to go or not. I had my own opinion, and we had this very open discussion about it.
Mm-hmm.
So I
Wow.
I would
Mm-hmm.
say I engage in discussions and allow him to build his own opinions.
Hmm. Okay. Then, oh, there is a question around higher education and degrees. For
Okay.
homeschooling, apart from NIOS, do we have any other option? I think she's meaning in terms of children with special needs. What other options do they have in terms of degree education, higher education?
There are kids who are doing Bachelor of Arts. There are kids who are doing vocational courses. There are a couple of vocational courses. There are a couple of NGOs who are doing vocational courses for kids. Things like animation, for example, things like data entry, These are practical skills. Vocational training is basically teaching the student practical skills that can be turned into earning profession, that can be turned into an income. Yeah, there are NIS itself has some vocational courses, I believe, after senior secondary, after 12th.
Right. Yeah. Okay. So what is Rohan learning right now? He's 18 years old. Has he given any exams? And have
Hmm.
you thought of you know uh,
I
him
am,
learning a skill?
yeah, I am now more and more tending towards unschooling.
Mm-hmm.
Also because of his health issues, the last 2 years we have literally not had a chance to do anything. So we had very, very restricted opportunities. So currently, I'm just enjoying. He had a major surgery a year and a half back, and he's just recovered from that surgery. So we are just enjoying talking to each other and just discussing world affairs currently. Because now he's
Okay.
18,
Nice.
so he has very strong opinions about what's right and what's not, and how things should
Yes.
be and should not be. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. In fact,
So
that is
more
the
tending.
age,
Yeah, yeah,
when
yeah,
children have
absolutely.
these, and
Yeah.
they look at everything black and white.
Yes.
And
So he questions me, he says me, why do you have this opinion? He questions my opinion. So currently I think we are having more of a debate team than anything else. But
yes, yes.
but I'm tending more towards unschooling now. So I don't think, at least at this point of time, until 2 years back, I was planning to do 10th through an iOS. That was the
Mm,
goal. But now I'm just thinking more in terms of maybe he can start a blog of his own, or like a car blog. He can do car
mm,
reviews or things like that. So I keep asking him, let's see.
yeah, yeah. Okay. So, okay, there's another question which asks whether do we need 10 certificate to join any vocational course?
No, not really. If you are doing vocational courses, there are a lot of NGOs who are doing these. I don't think you need a 10 standard certificate
Okay. Yeah.
for
So
that.
practical skills are being delivered through
Yeah.
various NGOs, be it if you want to
Yes.
become a chef, or if you want to get into learning something around tinkering with a car,
Yes.
repairing
Yes.
a car. And
But
there are
if you're
many
if you're
NGOs.
after, there are. But if you're
Yeah.
after like a certificate to again get you a job somewhere, then again that is where all this comes in. You need your 10 standard
Mm.
certificate. You need your 12 standard certificate. So for any kind of formal education, you need this. But there are
You
many
need.
alternative, yeah, for which you do not.
Yes. Right. And, okay. So I don't see any more questions as such. There are a lot of comments, Preeti, but I think I cannot display all of them right
That's
now.
okay. That's okay.
So you can go through them once our live ends.
Yeah,
And
yeah,
there's one thing that I have always wanted to talk about, especially when we are dealing with children with special needs. So, what is the role of nutrition in and exercise in the lives
yeah.
of children with special needs? I'm asking because uh, a deep concern which I've had which sprung up when I've seen 3, 4 children with autism who
Yeah.
have been who have become overweight and have not been able to manage a lot of things and have developed multiple other challenges just
Okay.
because they have become overweight. So I want you to
It's the
elaborate a
same,
little on
it's the same as any other child or
that.
any other human being. I mean, we all have the same bodies, even if our brains work differently. So the needs
Hmm.
are absolutely the same. The nutritional needs, the exercise, physical activity needs. In addition to that, children with autism have more needs in addition to the, the baseline. Some children
Mm,
might have allergies to certain foods, so they have to take care of that, things like that. But otherwise, it's just the same as any other human
mm.
being.
Yeah, yeah. I think this is also another important point that you have made, that in many ways, children with special needs are also children like any other children.
Yes, absolutely,
And if
absolutely.
if we strongly believe that every child is different and no child is,
Yes,
the same, then I think
yes,
all children are special, all
yes,
children
yes,
are
yes.
different, and all
Absolutely,
children have different
absolutely.
needs. Yes.
That is,
Some will.
that is a better way to look at it, actually. That is the
Hmm,
right way to look at it, I would say.
hmm,
The diagnosis is only there to help you support the child in a better way. It is not there to define the child in any way. These children are no different. They are like children. I tell parents, your child is a child first, with a
hmm,
child's needs, with a child's wants. You know, they are mischievous. They, want love and attention. It's, don't forget that the child is still a child. He
yeah.
has special needs. My son says it best. My son says, the only thing is that I have some special needs, some extra needs which have to be
Hmm,
taken care of. Otherwise, I'm just like anybody else.
yeah. Wow. Okay. Uh, there is a question from Bhagwanji who wants you to recommend a book that's a must read.
A book that is a must read in this area, in this field. भगवान जी बहुत साल हो गए बुक्स पढ़ के.
Just go by your
So I,
instinct.
yeah, so I'm like, what kind of book, like a novel or, 18 साल हो गए भगवान जी.
Yeah. Yes. In fact, since Bhagwanji has asked about what is a book that's a must read, uh, during this lockdown, I have been watching a lot of Netflix and Amazon Prime series, and there
Yeah.
are three series that I recommend every parent watches. One is
Okay.
Young Sheldon,
Okay.
second is Atypical, and so Atypical is about a
Yes. Yes.
adult child who has autism and who has
Yes. Yes.
chosen to do higher studies, and how he independently starts living independently and so
Yeah.
on. Lots to learn. And the
Yes.
third one is Parenthood, where they have shown a small, it's about
Yeah. Yeah.
many
Parenthood.
family
Right.
members,
Right.
but
Right.
there is one child, and how,
With
it's a
Asperger's, I think,
beautifully
in that.
shown as to
Yes.
how the parents go through denial, then
Yeah.
fear, and then acceptance, and then being proactive about their
Yeah.
child's condition, and constantly keeping in mind that our child
Yeah.
becomes independent. He should be able to walk on the street alone, do
Yeah.
things that he likes by himself. So these are three amazing series that I would recommend our viewers to watch. They are long. Parenthood has almost 7 seasons,
Oh, is
and
that
but
much? Is it now? Is it still
yeah,
ongoing?
no, no, it's ended
I
now.
think they
It's
have.
ended.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, it's ended. It's ended. So it's a beautiful series. So please do watch. It will open up your eyes, not only to become more accepting towards children with special needs, but also gives you a lot of pointers on how you should behave with your own children. And it's all three series are a lot of fun and a lot of entertainment too. Um, so we have already crossed 1 hour. It's 1 hour, 3 minutes. I'm going to share what Lily has to say, something really beautiful. A lot has to do with what success really is. Doing the best at what you are good at rather than only how much money you make. If that changes, it is easier to teach children too. Wow, I think
Absolutely.
amazing thought,
Absolutely.
Lily. And yes, we, so in one of our live sessions, our guest had shared that you have to change your parameters of success if you start homeschooling.
Yeah.
If
Yeah.
you yet want what parents want out of schooling children, you're
Yeah.
not in the right boat. You need to work on it. So
Yes.
yes.
The most successful people always say that they did not follow money, they followed their passion. That is
Yes.
what they always say. Money was a byproduct, it was never the goal, you
Hmm.
know?
Yeah.
And what Lily says is very true. That is how, money, if you look at education as a means to earning money, which is mostly, how we end up looking at it, हो जाएगा,
Yes.
लेकिन probably, उतना भी नहीं होगा जितना हो सकता था.
Right.
Sorry,
True.
once in a while I will.
It's lovely, lovely. So on that note, I would like to end this session. It was a beautiful session. It was so much fun chatting with you and
Thank you,
talking to
thank
you.
you,
I love your spirit, Preeti,
thank you.
and this is to all the viewers that Preeti is a member of our group.
Yeah.
So if anybody wants to reach out to her, please do so. You can
Yes.
find her on the group and maybe put in a personal message and she will get back to you. She also hosts many workshops and programs for parents of children with special needs. She does a
Yeah.
lot of work in that area. She's also writing a book, The Twinkle in His Eyes. So, Bhagwanji,
I
that's the
wanted
book you should read.
I wanted to say that, in a tongue in cheek kind of manner. Yeah, you should read my book, but then I.
Yes, Bhagwanji, you must read her book. We are all waiting for her book to be published, and we will also host a book discussion. In fact, that's a new project, new
Okay.
activity that we are going to soon start on the Homeschooling India book. We are going to start book discussions on books written by our by people who are homeschooling and or living life differently or have a different way of um, looking at things, so
Yeah.
we are soon going to announce our first discussion, and we are hoping that once we finish the first one, we have many more that follow, and Preeti's will definitely be one of them. So so
Thank you, thank you.
on that note, I'm going to end today's live. Thank you, viewers, for being part of this live, and thank you, everybody, for sharing your comments. I couldn't put up all your comments, but I'm sure Preeti will read them after this session is over.
Yes, yes, yes.
And thank you. So
Thank
I'm
you.
ending the
Thanks, everyone.